Well, it is 7 o'clock. We'll get started with the meeting. So, pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now that's supposed to be afterwards. We're supposed to do the pledge before we do anything else. Yeah. We got citizens' comments from citizens first.
That's, yeah, I don't want that
They
happening.
said the pledge, but that was it, that's all I gave.
Any comments from citizens? Seeing none, we close that portion of the public hearing. Or comments, whatever. All right. First up, we have electric department.
Yay.
We have an activity report in our packet. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Seems like we've been replacing an awful lot of street lights lately. Is that normal this time of year?
No, it kind of goes in waves, seems like it's always kind of going like that.
Yeah.
You'll just get a period of time when you'll have a number of light bulbs and
Mm-hmm.
different problems. So then you might have a month where you'll fix two or three.
He said light travels in waves. I always understand that.
Lights kind of travel in waves too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Street lighting on South Columbia Street.
All right, you have in your packet or possibly online, if you got it on your tablet or your laptop computer, just a couple of pages there, and I got way more information than what I'm sharing back to explain to them. Some of them, Columbia Street, I think, could already kind of be considered a collector street. And definitely in the future, I think things get built out, it will be a collector street, which, when you go to someone and ask for street lighting and they're gonna go, by certain criteria, and you tell them it's a collector street, they're gonna try to light it a little bit, probably more than what we need right away, but at least gives us some numbers to work with. And so some of them even went with, because of the pole spacing at 200 feet apart, light on every pole at 250 watts, high pressure sodium. The ones that took a little more time to actually talk to me, I kind of explained that, I was just probably gonna use 150 watt high pressure sodium, and probably more like every other pole, maybe put about 4 lights out there. And, because I think at this time, probably doing a little more residential type street versus collector street. And that would put each light about 400 feet apart, which I think would be enough for people walking. Because it is a quarter mile from Lakeview to Countryland. So that's a long way, and there's a light right now at Lakeview and a light at Countryland. So it is pretty dark, definitely in the middle of it, no doubt. Some of that information you have there where it shows 4 different street lights. And then the other thing that they want to do is they want to talk about maintenance cost also, and not just energy savings. So they put together this kind of price breakdown with, if you did put there's actually 9 poles in there. And so let's say you put one on every one. The first one is what we use right now. That first overhead on the left in that photograph is 150 watt overhead. And to buy 9 of those, you pay, plus a light bulb and a photo eye to go in it, a little over $600.
That's for all 9 of them?
Yeah. And then as you move to the right, that's a Cooper is that first one, Bird, I think it's Birdina or something like that. That's a abbreviation there. But as you can see, the price kind of goes up a little bit for the different ones, different brands. The very last one on the right is an American Electric Lighting LED unit, which is the same brand of high pressure sodium that we use. And these are the ones that some others recommended as well to be a true, put out as much light and get the light that we're looking for, to get some light spread up and down the street. And then also, I was concerned about the sidewalk, the new sidewalk across the street. And that's about 50 feet. Well, the whole right of way is about 50 feet wide from, I think, a little behind the back curve to the back of the sidewalk. So we put it on an 8-foot arm once you get it out there a ways. But you don't want all the light just going up and down the street. You need some of it to go across the street. So based on all that information that I gave them, these are the ones that not only this company, but some others recommended for these same ones. And so, like I say, they put a lot of maintenance costs in there, you know, like if you've got a crew at, you know, of course, I mean, they kind of estimated high at first, you know, it's $150 an hour, and it takes an hour to go out there and change a light bulb. I mean, you need to consider that. Well, a lot of times we don't consider that cost here at the city as much because, you know, we're paid all day, every day, whatever we're doing, whether we're changing a street light or trimming a tree or changing a pole out or whatever. And so, to me, that cost isn't as, I guess it's necessary to look at. It is still worth something to us, you know, for the amount of time that we're not having to repair street lights, then that means that we can work on something else. So it is worth something, but to me, it's harder to put a number on it like they did. I mean, that's where their annual energy and maintenance savings came up with, is that, you know, you're looking at a 10,000 hour light bulb. Well, if it runs almost 5,000 hours a year over a 10-year period, you know, you might have to go out there 5 times. Whereas this 50,000 hour LED light, you're not gonna go out there. But to put it up, and then maybe 10 years later, if it finally needs to be replaced. So they add all that in, and that's what gets their incremental payback period down, especially on the Cooper model, the second one there in the row, down to 1.5 years based on those costs. And they plugged in some real numbers. I gave them some real numbers for, you know, our hourly rate and benefits and what the truck cost us per hour and that kind of thing. So, you know, I went ahead and let them show that, you know, a payback of 1.5 years. Same way on the 150 watt high pressure sodium. I mean, I think even the first one, that's the 10-year cost of ownership for 9 of those lights. I just have a hard time really fully believing that it really costs us $10,427 to own that light for that 10 years. It just really.
Is that for owning all 9 of those?
Yes, correct. I mean, that would be, you know, what they would figure it, you know, energy usage, going out there, how many ever times to replace a light bulb, maybe having to replace a fixture or 2 or a ballast, photo eyes, things like that. Over that 10 years, you know, if you figure in the cost of the labor and the truck use and all that, that costs that much.
So let me ask a question. This first column is what we've got now?
Yes.
That we normally use?
Correct.
And the next 3, are those all LEDs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are all just different proposed LED lights. Yep. And the very second one is just the least expensive one, but it is Cooper brand. So I mean, it's a good long-term company, been around a long time. Yeah. So is American Electric Lighting. The third one is a Leotech, which I think they're maybe kind of new into the LED street lighting, but they've been in the signal lighting for a long time, traffic signals. So, because there are definitely a lot of brand new companies out there since this LED thing kind of hit, and they are popping up all over the place trying to sell you the latest and greatest thing.
All right, well, before the meeting, you were talking a little bit about the effectiveness of the light at the street level.
Right.
How do these 3 compare as far as that is concerned? Which one comes up best on that?
I'd have to get back with you on that. I don't know right off the top of my head which one ended up with the most amount of lumens on the street. And that's, I'm not certain that they, I got all that information, actually.
Well, you had a couple of them there anyway.
Yeah, yeah, and those were, and those were actually none of these here, and that was even a different wattage and a different style. That was just in a PowerPoint presentation trying to kind of explain to you. If you just look at the amount of lumens, you know, everyone talks lumens when they talk lighting. And, you know, if you got this high pressure sodium lumen light has, like for example, in that PowerPoint, it said like over 9,000 lumens. Well, the LED equivalent only had like 3,500 lumens. So you're thinking, well, it can't be equivalent. But there's different ratings that derate the amount of lumens just through the optics of it. Because the LED, they are directional. They are actually pointing the light where you need them to go. And they've got the prismatic lens to help direct that light. There's a lot of light in a high pressure sodium light that's going up and bouncing and kind of gets wasted. Right. So you end up with less lumens to begin with, and then by the time you get down to the street, every light has a certain amount of limit to it, and so you end up with maybe a third of the lumens from a high pressure sodium light actually going where you want it to go, and you end up with more like 80% or better of the LED lumens going where you want it to go. So by the time you get on the ground, you got about the same amount of lumens. And I'd have to look at those, because the Cooper I didn't even have a picture of it today. Wasn't even sure what it looked like until today. And I do have some information on the AEL unit, and I just have to look through it again. I got so many different emails, and some of them didn't even come in until today. But so far, that Cooper is still the best priced one, and I think the closest in getting the performance that we're looking at. Is they did give me a sheet to show me what it would look like on the street as far as how many foot candles would hit under the light and then as you went out from the light. And it was, well, all these three were the closest to what this light spread of the 150 watt high pressure sodium was. That's kind of why Westco went with these three, because they looked at several more. But these three were the closest and the least expensive. Because I mean, there's just so many factors to look at, and ratios, and the light per watts, and lumens per watt, and you just name it. I mean, it is crash course education there, and it all came like on Thursday, Friday, and today. So I'm still trying to muddle my way through it too. But I think that the best thing to do though is to look at the next page, which to me makes it a lot simpler. Just looking at, once again, the same four lights, looking at in the first column there, the American Electric Lighting high pressure sodium that we use all the time. And then the Cooper, and then the Leotech, and then the American Electric Lighting's LED option. And I just did this per one light. So light fixture, photo eye, and a light bulb, and then the total cost there, you know, for each one of what we use now is $76.15. And then in the next three columns, it shows you what the LED would cost per one. And you put a better photo eye in it. The photo eye is, you know, if you just buy the cheap $5 photo eye like we have, that will last typically longer than our bulbs, but they're not rated to last as long as an LED fixture. So instead of putting a cheap photo eye in there, you go ahead and put a little more expensive photo eye in there, hoping that it will also last closer to 50,000 hours. and have a good warranty. All this stuff typically right now has about a 5-year warranty. But most of them have 50,000 hours, which you're looking at about 10 years is what they're giving their lifespan of the. And what that means is that after 50,000 hours, the LED unit would still be putting out 70% of its initial rating. So it's not necessarily that it just dies after 50,000 hours. It's just you're only getting about 70% of the light that you started with after 50,000 hours. But then the key line to kind of look there is the difference of just how much more that LED costs. And then the next line is the watts. And so just on that Cooper, you're looking at, to get a 150 watt high pressure sodium going, you actually burn about 178 watts. So then the 88 watt LED unit, it's just 88.6 watts, is what it uses. And so I figured our wholesale electric price is a little, it's always kind of moving up and down a little bit, but I just put a number in there of 6.5 cents a kilowatt hour. Because our street lighting is, it's not metered, basically. It's not like, residential cost 9.7 cents. But we're not paying that for street lighting, we're paying the wholesale rate. We look at it as loss on the system, really. We sell this much electricity and you get paid for that. Well, on top of that is street lighting. We don't get paid for that. So, any advantage that we can take like this to kind of drop that loss down, if the cost is feasible, then I'd recommend it. And just figure like that 4,380 hours, that's usually figured about 12 hours a day. In the summertime, you'll run less than that because it's dark less, but in the wintertime, you might run 13, 14 hours of darkness. So they just usually typically use 12 hours as the standard. So that'd be 4,380 hours a year times that kilowatt hours. You're looking at over $50 per year to run that 150 watt light. And the 3 LEDs you're looking at there, 25, 26, 27 bucks per year. So it is about half as far as the price. And so just like for example on that Cooper, you would have an annual energy savings of $25.46. Well, if you take your difference up there at $111, because that's what you paid over and above the 150 watt light, and then divide that by your annual energy savings, in 4.36 years, the energy savings would pay that difference. That would make up that extra $111 that you spent up front to get the LED. So, where the other ones that are higher priced, obviously, that last one, see, that takes over 9 years. You're only saving about the same amount of energy, but you paid so much more up front for it, that it took over 9 years to get your money back. Well, at 10 years, you're looking at
Replacing it all.
you could be, at that point, so you barely maybe have it paid back, and then now you gotta buy another one, so maybe it wouldn't be, that one to me would not recommend doing that, but I would think that something less than 5 years, just kind of get your all's opinion, what you think, if that's, something.
Do you know where the Cooper lights are manufactured?
I do not know that.
Okay.
No. I don't know if they are made in America or not.
It would be interesting to
Yeah.
try a street and see how it does.
Right.
I think it'll be pretty neat.
But I agree with you, I think the one that takes 10 years, almost 10 years to replace is really,
Right.
definitely not a very good option.
Right. And that's still kind of where, they're coming down all the time. This is.
It used to be
been
20 or
quite a-
30 years payback, but,
Yeah,
less than 5 years is pretty reasonable.
Right.
I think.
right. And, I think, and ultimately it's what we're gonna have. LED is going to be the standard. I just really believe that. I think eventually, even in as much as fluorescent lighting has made progress, even in a lot of your indoor lighting, eventually,
Yeah.
it's gonna be LED.
Well, I like, kind of leaning forward too, you know, in energy consumption.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
huge positive.
And you say that the Cooper light area-wise will be as much as what the 150 watt is we're using now.
Yes, and then that, and over that period of time, see the high pressure sodium, the standards, that 10,000 hours, I think that 50% that you were talking about, Jim, was, that the rating on the high pressure sodium light bulb, 10,000 after 10,000 hours,
If it reaches that far.
yeah, right, if it reaches that far, it would be down to 50%. That's where they get that 10,000 hour rating for a high pressure sodium light bulb, is that at what point in time does it still have 50% of its original light output? And that's at 10,000 hours, which you're figuring a little over 2 years based on almost 5,000 hours a year of operation. And after 2 years, and I think some of them work better than that from our experience. It just, I don't see it dimming that much on our lights out there, but that's just kind of how they rate it.
And they're saying the LEDs are.
Where the
around
LEDs,
70%.
it's a 70% standard, yeah. That after 50,000 hours, it'll still be at 70% of their original light output.
So theoretically, you're gonna get even longer out of them.
Right, yeah, exactly, yep. So,
And that's where you get the 10 years, basically, it's 50,000 hours.
yes, yes. And I think since everybody kind of came back with lots of different options and lots of different prices and different info, that we'd like to take maybe just a couple more weeks just to sit that out, and then I think it's probably gonna be this Cooper model, because I think it's gonna be the best performer for the money. And then maybe get some prices on that, because I mean, Wesco's not the only one that deals with Cooper. So you get some prices from others on this one, and I'll take even a better look at that and see if it looks like, I just think right now, treating that more like a residential street, putting them about 400 feet apart, and put about 4 lights along there in that quarter mile. And we can just maybe see just how much it would cost to get 4 of them, and I mean, actually, it would be less than $12.50. So, when
Our station is.
if you guys are basically okay with, at this point, maybe like, it looks like it would be about $111 extra per fixture just to try them out. But getting that money back over a 5-year period based on the wattage savings. Because if I buy 4, it's gonna be less than $12.50, doesn't really need to come back to you guys for approval anyway. But, so if you guys feel comfortable with trying that.
Well, it'll be a long time before that needs more residential lighting out there.
Yeah, right.
Are you gonna do the whole street or just down there,
Just
Lakeview,
to Countryland,
country line?
yeah,
From Lakeview to Centralia.
yeah,
I'm okay with that.
and then,
Which is a little better than quarter mile.
Yeah.
And Mark, since we're getting this new material, are you gonna need much in the way of extra supply? Because you don't have these out yet. Is there gonna be, are we gonna have to spend a little bit more so we have backup just in case, or something?
well, I mean, I don't know that we would, if you want to, maybe, if you had 4, if you wanna have 5, buy 5, have 1 on hand. So if one did fail, you wouldn't have to wait for weeks possibly to get. You just can't go out and pull the light bulb in, and I don't know the delivery time on them. I think it,
I mean, that would be the big difference, is probably.
yeah, and I'll-
If you're looking at a month or more
Yeah.
Versus a week.
right, if it's 4 to, I mean, I'm just kind of guessing it might be like 4 to 6 weeks or something for delivery.
So if we go for the and I apologize, he got this stuff in just this afternoon, so I hate to ask you
Yeah.
a question. But if we get if we go to the residential standard now, we're not gonna have to undo anything or go to a collector standard.
Right.
You can just add in more of the gaps.
Right, no, I think all you'd have to do is just then fill in the gaps with
Yeah.
a like fixture, correct?
All right. All right. Any other questions? I suggest do like you say and be a little bit more. Find out who else has got them, see what's right.
Yeah,
They come back.
but I would imagine that the price, it'll all be very similar. I mean, they're all usually right in there together. I think that Cooper's gonna be the best one to try, and we'll just give it a try and see what you guys think of it.
Okay. Whole attachment agreement for Landis, Geyer, remote reading.
Maybe Matt has most of the information on that.
Well, I put this on the agenda and have since then found out that this is gonna be something that we bring back. Lance Geyer is the, I don't know if I'm saying it right, is the
Lance
contractor. Lance Geyer is the contractor for Ameren, gas distribution to do the metering. And Ameren is asking them to get data to find out how much it would cost to go to remote read or advanced meter reading or whatever you want to call it, to go towards the two-way meters eventually. So they're trying to figure out their costs, and they want to know what we're going to charge them to put a couple boxes up on. When I talked to them on Friday, it was up to as many as 5 or 6 poles somewhere in the city. And I was looking at how much we're charging Charter or phone company, and they're very different contracts. I'm not saying we're charging them very different amounts, but they're very different contracts. The phone companies is based on the idea that we own half the poles and the phone company owns half the poles, as it was which is the case in 1980 when we signed that agreement. Charters is a cost per pole. But this is not going to be a moneymaker for us. It's just, do we want to allow them on the poles? It's going to make it easier for them to read the meters for the citizens who have gas service in the city. We would like to make sure that we would like an agreement because we want them to know, we want to know exactly where they are. We want to restrict them to poles where it's not going to get in the way of anything else. And I also asked them about the possibility, Lynn brought this up actually in conversation, about the possibility of sharing meter reading capabilities. They say they've tried that. I haven't talked to Moberly, but they said they tried it in Moberly, and from his point of view, it was a headache. And personally, I'm not sure how. Maybe I'm just ignorant. And luckily David's not here to laugh at me when I say this, but keeping our data separate. I don't know how much I want to know about Ameren readings if they accidentally came to us, and vice versa. So I'm sure there's ways to prevent that. But
Yes, I would think that would not be a problem. It might be a headache in other ways.
yeah. But anyway, right now right now I don't have an agreement. It'll be coming up unless you tell me don't even talk to them. But I can't imagine that.
Could we take a percentage of their savings for not having a meter reader go around? That might be worth this month.
Well, we could do anything. The thing I want to. I'm not sure how much trouble we get in if we give them an entirely different deal for putting their stuff on a pole, but their stuff is entirely different. It's not cord on a pole, it's a box. And it's not a big box, it's maybe about the size of the,
Not as big a transformer or anything.
No, it'd probably be about a box the size of Mark's laptop, but a little thicker.
Probably, yeah. Usually they have a little antenna on top of them,
Yeah.
and then, because they're a collector unit, it collects so many gas meters in an area and then sends that on to another spot.
The ones in Fulton for theirs were this big and about that deep. So, and that was for electric anyway, so that's what I'm picturing.
And they have some dead areas is why, I mean, that's the initial reason why they came to us, is they have some dead areas in town. They already have some collector units on their poles around the city.
Right.
They do have, Hammer does own some poles right around the outside of the city here, and some of them through the city. So they do have some, but on near Lakeview and Ivy and Lakeview and Green, kind of a big stretch through there. They have some dead spots, they're having trouble reading their meters. So that's initially why they came to us.
Well,
So,
I certainly think that's a better deal than the wireless people that give us.
so go ahead and pursue it, but not necessarily as quite as friendly as with the charter that just has wire. Is that, or, whatever, what we can get. I'm trying to read the. My feeling was we charge them about what Ameren was charging, or that we were charging charter for pulp. But I'm kind of getting the feeling that maybe since their equipment's a little larger, it might be. And the other thing is that there's the second part of the charge is the wrench, the space on the pole, and the other is the electric use. And Mark makes some sort of gesture if I'm going to use your words wrong, but Mark's not too crazy about the idea of trying to put a meter on each one of them because they've metered them in other cities and they use extreme, like minimal amounts. Yeah. The meter charge, a typical meter charge, would be more than they're paying in energy per year. So I was thinking, whatever it is, but meter is
$8.91
Yeah.
is the minimum service charge,
Yeah.
just for having a meter on at a
Right.
residence or anywhere.
So charge them like $9 a month for
I think that would be better.
For energy.
Yeah, I think so
Right.
too, yeah.
And then plus some type of attachment fee. And charge it for their energy, then plus charge them an attachment fee for being on the pole for
Right.
a year or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, I can see it's not gonna be a big money maker.
No, and at 6 units in the city, we're still gonna have to, collect taxes and utility. Yes, it's gonna be, very, you got it, exactly like you're saying.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's all I've got for that.
Okay, any other under electric?
Nope. It'd take 35 minutes.
Moving right along to water and sewer department. Activity reports in our packet, any questions or comments? Anything under water?
Under sewer,
Okay.
down the second item there, when MCR came and lined those manholes, hired Burton and Head, one behind the pool hall, and then there's one between Bruton and Dobie. They got all those done, and with 6 inches to rain to check it out, they all did fantastic, no leaks. One behind the pool hall was really leaking bad, and not a drop, so.
Great.
Good deal. And really good price. I've got
What kind
several
of
other
manholes
people.
for those bricker?
The one behind the, pool hall is actually a concrete sections. But the one over at Head and Halliburton's concrete block, and there's a brick one over on between Doty and Bruton. All three different, and all three patch good, so.
Good.
Sounds great. Price was right anyway.
yeah.
All right, any other underwater or sewer? Moving right along then. Public Works, we have an activity report again. Any questions or comments?
Noticed the street sweeper's been out several mornings.
and catch up with all the leaves that are falling.
Comments?
I think
Quick.
it's, yeah, it's gonna come quick.
Next up, streets. Anything in the streets?
I got a couple of things. I handed some, sent out a couple of handouts under sidewalk cooperation policy. I have searched and have not found any written down policy or agreement for what we've been doing for years, which is where we have the money budgeted and where there are sidewalks particularly that are important gaps, or the sidewalks that exist that are in disrepair but are creating important gaps in our sidewalk network. Thank you. We have been paying for the materials if they cover the cost of labor. Basically, we reimburse for the cost of the materials, the concrete, etc. And after they hire contractors, so they end up covering the labor and that sort of thing for the part that is a sidewalk. If they have a pathway up to their house, out to the street, or something like that, in conjunction with the same project, we don't cover that. But so I just wanted to come up with a actual agreement, and I have a draft for you guys to consider. This would have to be a policy resolution, I think, and then we have a form, and so this is a straw man. Apparently I can't figure out how to get the watermark to say draft, so that's why it says DAT in the background, the RNEF. Anyway, so this is a draft. There's a couple of policy parts to it that I would like feedback particularly. The first one is, do we want to have a list of contractors approved? We've had pretty good luck, and I don't think we've had anything that was awful, but we've had a couple that were questionable, functional, but yeah, I was talking to Alderman Lee earlier. It's things that you were in drafting class, and you may have gotten the drawing right, but they took off points for the smudges and all that kind of stuff. They were even taking off points for the not looking neat, not looking as nice as we would do it, or if a contractor does it all the time. So that's something to consider. Of course, if you're able to do it, and you can do it, how picky are we going to be, basically, is what that comes down to. So this is just something for you to ruminate about for the next couple of weeks when we come up with when I put the actual policy before the board. But I would like to have I do want to have this in final form in 2 weeks. The other piece, first is, do we want to have an approval list? And the other one is, do we want to have an annual, sort of like, we're going to pay X amount per square foot? Or do we just, I think almost everyone's going to be getting a concrete from the same, there's one or two, maybe two.
Yeah, this is Mexico or Colombia.
Right. Yeah. And so I don't really see that being an issue. The standards are adopted, and they are in our code, and they are pretty precise, so we don't need to worry about that. The
Sidewalk requirements.
sidewalk requirements, the depth, the thickness, it goes into great detail.
Yeah.
That doesn't, we don't need to mess with that as far as, then the width, if they're replacing 3 foot, they can stay at 3 foot, otherwise they have to go to 4 foot. That's all set in the ordinance. I suppose if they wanted to go to 5 foot, I know if we'd want to keep it, paying them back for 4 foot, that'd be the other part. I guess that's something we need to consider too. But I would think that, my recommendation is, for now, we can leave it as, let me look at who they're proposing to use, or, see if they have, between me and Phil, basically, figure out if they have the capability of doing it themselves.
Right.
Until somebody does something really bonehead and forces us to
Well,
have it.
as far as, the difference as far as I see, would be a matter of, if there's an approved contractor, we know the quality of their work, they approve themselves. If they want to do it themselves, then we probably ought to have an inspector out there. Somebody ought to be inspecting it. Because we want to make sure that they get their depth right, and that's the key thing, and they want to make sure that they get the cuts and the, joints in the right place, the expansion joints.
It ought to be inspected even if a contractor does it.
What's that?
It ought to be inspected even if a contractor does it.
Probably ought to be.
Well, contractor would have to carry an insurance with him.
Well, maybe, maybe not. But it depends on what kind of insurance you're talking about, they're carrying some insurance, yes.
Well, if they're quality work, come back.
I don't know that, the only way you take care of that is with a bond,
Yeah.
Performance bond.
performance bond. And typically, no, that's not on these kind of projects. On bigger projects, yes, but on something like this, probably not.
I mean, you're supposed to get a permit
Right,
to get to do a sidewalk.
because it is on city right of way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the projects are, up to $1,400 usually. So, what kind of asking for a bond would probably be a little too much. But have we ever said no, tear it up on a sidewalk in your memory? It doesn't mean we shouldn't, but
I don't know if we have, maybe we might have ran out of money, we said not this year,
yeah.
but generally we don't run out of money, and I don't know if we've ever really told anybody no.
Or if they're at some point in the process of putting the sidewalk in and said, that ain't gonna cut it for the city of Centralia, you gotta go back and do it.
We haven't had too many. I had one last year that I had to stop and said, no, we need to adjust all these forms, and then they still didn't quite get it, but.
Right, okay. So,
But there's only been a handful of instances that just didn't get quality
Was
work.
that landowner that did it, or was that?
No, they paid somebody.
That's when they left all the,
Yeah, we would have finished up to clean it up.
they all ended up finishing up
Yeah.
cleaning it all up and everything. They
Yeah.
just left everything, poured it and left.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that was, probably got a good price on that.
Yeah, they made some money.
But I thought they're not supposed to do any more in town, right?
No, he's not gonna come back. Yeah, if I
That's
see.
what
Yeah.
I thought. I thought that's
Well,
what
that's
they said.
what I would do, I wouldn't let them do it anymore.
well, and that's why, at least in the draft I have here, is that I get that. Well, I with Bill's assistance would approve the contractor or give them the okay.
Right.
I wouldn't. Yeah, they couldn't get this signed, and then we could since this is an agreement, we typically have anything. I mean, we could the other part of that is you want to have my signature. Is my signature good enough, or if we're giving out money, I don't know of anything that we do where we give out money to promote something that Tim doesn't sign. Even the $1,500 demolition grants has mayor's signature. Now, if it's under $1,250, I suppose, it wouldn't violate any of our purchasing rules. But I think it'd be better to have Tim sign.
Are we likely to exceed $1,250 on his payment for materials?
Is that how big the sidewalk is?
Yeah,
Can?
we can get pretty close just on the concrete. The last one we just did was pretty close.
Yeah.
It was just underneath that. I'd say most of the time, probably not for the average homeowner.
We could leave it at, just by policy, if it's over $1,250, he signs. If it's under $1,250, I can sign. You want to do it that way?
I'd say average, they're probably running in the $750 area. The
Well,
average
I would think
sidewalk.
for most of them it would be,
Yeah.
unless you got like a corner lot or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right.
This may not be part of this, but I know in the past, Phil's been pretty helpful with removal of sidewalks.
Yes.
Is that something?
Well, that's actually I was going to cover that also here.
Oh.
There's two handouts. So the first, the one that is on the agenda here is the sidewalk cooperation policy. So I'll bring that. Generally, this looks okay. At this point, we're not ready to move forward with having an approved list of contractors. Just leave it where Phil and I. Yeah.
I thought we had an approved list of contractors.
For sidewalk?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's one that exists anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, there was one
We may
time.
have one time, but
Okay.
Matt hasn't been able to find any policy or anything, so we never did find any
Well, if we
list.
did, yeah, and I'm sure that some of the people that were on there are probably no longer doing it. So.
Yeah.
Well, we could go out and, would you like to have one? I mean,
I mean, we could put together some, you know, just to give somebody some options.
the trick is who you keep off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We can put together a short list of options, you know, so here's a few options of,
People that
Local.
we've had good luck with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say to probably do that, and personally, I hate to say that the contractor can't come in here, I'm more inclined to say he can't come back.
yeah, well, and that's, I mean, otherwise you sort of have to do some sort of RFQ, you know, some
Yeah.
kind of show us what you've done, and, yeah. Because we can't just say, no, we don't like you because your trucks are blue and we like red.
But I mean, I certainly want to keep somebody out that has shown a poor performance like the one that you were talking about. We don't want them back.
Yeah.
If they're not gonna clean up after themselves, if they're not gonna do the job properly, then, no, they're not on our list. They're on our disapproved list more than anything else.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
All right.
All right, I think I have the direction I need to move forward with that. The other part is, we can do one of two things on removing sidewalks without replacing. We either really have to change the code, or it actually says the Board of Aldermen is supposed to approve any removal in section 34. That's why I brought that one before. So I just want to put together a brief application to remove sidewalks. So then we put this in your packet, and then you guys would approve whether or not to remove a sidewalk without replacement. And and I give you a recommendation saying it's not, if we have a comprehensive plan with a sidewalk plan, if they're taking something out where there's an approved plan, I would not sign off on it, or I'd not give you the check mark saying you can sign off on it. It's not part of a vital established sidewalk, or something we're trying to work towards that has been, like if we adopt some sort of plan after the comprehensive, or some sort of, if it's part of our network of sidewalks, but it isn't officially in a plan, give us sort of a separate category there. And if it's for some reason we put the sidewalk in with a grant, we're required not to remove it for 10 or 20 years. So I would let you guys know that. And then the other part, and these have not been before merit, so this is this part is just kind of a nutty idea of mine. There's a sidewalk over on Booth Street, and we need sidewalks on Booth Street. But we agreed that, this is my recommendation, to allow this guy to remove the sidewalk on Booth Street, because it's going to be almost impossible to have a network, a sidewalk all the way through on the south side. Of course, maybe my perspective isn't long enough. Maybe I'm not thinking 50 years in the future. Maybe I should be. But it looks like we can get one on the north side at some time.
Sidewalks are the last 50 years anyway.
Well, yeah. But you need to take a long-term perspective on these things, and just because it doesn't look like it's going to happen now, so if we tell that guy, okay, yeah, you can take out the sidewalk, get rid of it, grade it, he's going to save some money. Now, how much money is debatable, but if we charged him $1 a linear foot, $2 a linear foot, or whatever, a third the cost or half the cost of putting the sidewalk back, and put that in a fund, it's not going to be a lot of money, but I think it'll discourage people just taking them out because they cost money, and it will give us a little bit of funding to, help fund the next year's sidewalk rehabilitation, or, someday, I don't know if we really want to create a separate, absolute, locked trust fund, like, idea, but it would pay into the general fund, and, there'd be more money down the road for replacing sidewalks.
Well, yes, which would take care of part of the other part.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So-
That's probably not a bad idea. And because it does discourage people from just wanting to remove it just because they want to remove it.
Well, there's several spots in town that have sidewalks that go nowhere, one house or something, and, they might be willing to pay for it and that would, like I say, give them some incentive.
Yeah.
Because the sidewalk on the south side of Booth Street is not even in the right of way.
Yeah, it's,
It wasn't, it was, I think, half of it was on the homeowners there.
No, all of it was.
Was all of it? Okay. I remember, yeah, putting part of it away, okay.
okay.
Because the street's not in the middle of the road.
We'll talk to Merritt and see if we can do that. I don't know if that, I mean, that may be, it sounds like a fee to me, but I don't know if we can do that without a vote of the people because it's a new charge. But in which case, it's gonna wait for a while.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't, wouldn't suggest doing something, spending $5,000 for an election.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I'll bring that idea before. And that's, these are, again, are, like I said, like straw men for you guys to take a look at and find. The sidewalk repair assistance agreement doesn't have a date anymore on it, so, there are still, I'm sure you'll find gaps, but, figured that committee meeting was a good time to bring that up. All right. And on the sidewalk grant, I've talked to the Regional Planning Commission. I've looked at the application. I think we have a project that's worthy of funding, but I'm going to need some help to get it done.
Okay.
So the applications are due November 14th. It would be difficult to go through a formal request for qualifications, et cetera. I've got a couple of different firms in mind. How would you want me to work with the mayor to pick a firm to help us with this? I've talked to Gonzalez, I've talked to Cochran, and then there are a couple other suggestions. Those three, if I had three to talk to, give me a one-page, can you do this kind of thing? What would make you guys happy without having to go through a lengthy request for proposal? The cost to us is going to be a couple of $1,000 plus the 20% of the project.
What is the project?
Oh, the project, it would be putting sidewalk to the high school. Connecting it to the network on either the east or west side or some combination of that, because there are some places where for the most part, I'm thinking the west side is probably the better side to go. But then there's a lot of houses on the east side, so that's one of the things that the engineer could see how much more it costs to put it on one side versus the other.
Yeah, you have to put a crosswalk in there.
Yeah, and crosswalks definitely can be part of the project as well. In fact, I would, even if we don't put it on, regardless of which side we put it on, I think putting in crosswalks and something with more visible signage would be part of the project. I think it's a reasonably fundable project. I think it's something that could, go over. But,
So you're looking for
guidance on how to choose a firm.
a firm that's gonna help us write the grant?
Write the grant and then, administer the project.
I'll help you.
All right, does that sound good? Anybody else want to work with me and Don? Okay, me and Don, the mayor, pick a firm ask for a short.
Yeah.
Okay. Will that make you guys happy? I mean, it's
Well, that's a small outlay for a
right.
fairly big return. I don't know what the odds are of getting it, but it's probably a reasonable use of our money to try to get a grant like that.
Yeah. We got that one, for the current state process school sidewalk.
Right, no, we didn't get the extension.
Right.
Or I could just bring them all back in 2 weeks. That would still probably give us enough time.
Yeah, we'll sit down, we'll take a look at it. and see what it is.
Maybe so next week's general government.
We might need to, well, yeah, we could do it next week. We'll sit down and we'll look at it.
Okay. Anybody else, do you want to? I'm good. Okay. All right. I figured you had some expertise in the area. Okay. That's all I've got on sidewalk.
Okay, next up, sanitation.
Lost trash.
The truck's going up?
Item,
Not yet.
item 31 on the activity report, met with Dan about testing anchors at the brush.
I kind of left off Hubble. With Hubble, they go out there and, our clay soil and has the compaction that they need, and, they're gonna just use the side of it. They've done it several times over the years. So we met out there and looking at it, trying to see if there's another spot they could use and not have to be in the brush pit, but that's about the best spot. It's got the clay they need to test their anchors is all.
Alright, that's good.
All right.
Anything we can do to help work together with the businesses in the area?
I did have one, I had a gentleman come up to me today and just generally compliment the sanitation crew on how hard they work. And I didn't write his name down immediately. and
It's lost.
yeah, and the name that I'm coming up with is not the right name. But it's Dow. Donna was there when he was in, so but we got a very nice compliment on how hard you guys are working.
All right. Next up, storm sewer, anything?
We've just been doing several small little drainage projects for some homeowners and stuff lately, so got several more coming up next month, so.
Any other under public works? Any other?
I got one other.
Okay.
Okay. This is not as the street department, this is from the Whitetails Unlimited. We've been talking to Earl Bennett, wanting to put in an archery range out at the park, and he suggested the spot behind the back of the lime ponds, which is actually on the city property, not inside the parks. The north of it, and I would need your all's blessings to proceed with that and talk to the park board and see if that's something.
To see about maintaining it?
Well, they're gonna help maintain it. We were gonna pay for everything, so we're gonna build it and put it up, and they would help do the mowing and keep an eye on it and do all that, but we would like to try to put one in back there.
Which direction would be downrange?
We would extend the drive by the, whatever well that is.
Number 4 well, between the pool and the water plant.
Kind of back where y'all used to shoot off fireworks.
Shoot north.
Which way would you shoot?
Where you used to help shoot. But we would shoot towards the woods. We put up like a backdrop fence and then shoot towards the woods there.
I don't have a problem with that.
I'd be in favor of it, just as long as we make sure we crossed all our safety
Yeah.
requirements.
I don't really see any downside to it.
No, we got when we went and looked at one Hallsville's got, and we'd have we'd like to put up like a privacy fence, 10 to 20 yards in front of the woods as a backdrop. If something does hit it or goes through it, it still has quite a distance to drop.
Would this be a supervised range?
No, it'd be unsupervised. And then we could even put a fence along the sides, or we definitely have it signed about being an archery range. And then we're looking at 10, 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50 yard range targets. These are big targets, like 5 by 5. I mean, these are fairly large targets that be built and permanently mounted.
Okay.
It's very similar. It sounds very similar to what they installed in Fulton, and there's I don't know if it's Whitetails Unlimited, but they installed a similar thing. The only problem with and the insurance company there didn't have a problem with it. In the end, it turned out it wasn't a great spot because it's right next to where the pole yard is, and so the kids are going over and climbing on the pole yard. So as long as they don't go swimming in the lime ponds, I think.
Well, so we'd be shooting away from that, so okay.
Yeah.
We wouldn't shoot the ducks and stuff that are swimming on the pond.
How are you gonna keep kids from going over there?
There is a fence around the line pond, right?
Well, I mean, we with the privacy fence in the back, the backdrop, and even maybe having a chain link fence on the sides. So you couldn't have any cross traffic. I mean, they'd have to literally come and walk past, down the chute in front of you, right where you're at to get in there. We'd have, we just have a walkway to come in, have a path, when we'd have stations set up to shoot at each target range. So there'd only be one way into it. like, like where you drive in, just have a little parking spot there, just have one way to walk into it. I mean, there's no way to prevent people from climbing over the fence or anything, but most guys that shoot archery are, you know,
Yeah.
usually fairly
I'd
observant.
be concerned with be some real young kids
Yeah,
but
but,
out there unsupervised.
well, I mean, we're not gonna be near the playground area or nothing, we are on the backside of the ponds.
It's kinda out there.
Yeah, we're kind of, we're not even actually in the park area.
Yeah.
Would there be any limitations as to target areas, target arrows only?
Yes. And I probably would assign no, like crossbows and stuff like that, they can shoot a lot harder.
Pistols probably,
Archery pistol?
Yeah.
I mean,
Little 22-year-old.
You gotta have those ones with the rubber section.
Suction dart.
well, we would, yeah, you can bring that one out when you get.
Would there'd be sort of a drawing of exactly what you had?
Yeah, I do have a little rough sketch I can show you guys when we get in there.
Okay.
Okay. Would that be, resolution or something, or authorization or something like that?
I'm just trying to get, I mean, if you guys are even in favor of it, if we can, you know.
When would you be looking at doing this, in the spring?
It would probably be winter, spring mostly, if we ever really got.
Yeah.
What I would, if I would think you'd want some sort of okay from the park board or something, even though it's not in the parks.
Yeah, but they're gonna help.
But if they're gonna
Mowing,
maintain it and
yeah.
stuff, I think there ought to be some sort of
Yeah.
agreement.
Right.
Probably be a resolution, I would imagine.
Yeah. And they were, and Earl has talked to him a little bit, and he said most of them were in favor of it, so. Yeah, we talked to all of them. He said they seemed like they were in favor of it, so.
And run it by the insurance company too.
Yeah.
You may call him? Sure. Call him, tell my wife I know.
All right. Well, I think it's worth at least pursuing it a little bit further.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That may arise, or any other, that may arise.
We'll say that October is fire prevention month. Make sure you're checking your smoke detectors and your fire extinguishers if you have them in your house. You know, you don't have to test fire them, because it's not a good thing, so. Just make sure there's still pressure in the gauge and the fire extinguishers. Just make sure you're, preparing your Christmas lights and all that stuff. Go through them. Get ready.
I didn't bring it up.
Hey, we're working on it.
All
That's
right,
all I got.
anybody else?
Well, if he's gonna mention, smoke, or fire prevention month, we probably should note that the governor actually noted that this is, public power week. So,
So
I know that.
we're supposed to use more power,
No, public employees get free power.
it's not even started yet. So, no, it's just to appreciate the, 89 municipalities are
Bring it up.
down.
Yeah.
Bring up fire.
But, I do, under as Mayor, I want to thank Mark for the work that he did with the, LED lights. It was a very good briefing. Very good briefing.
Try to get more into KD.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
I got one thing. Body shop's open. Legitimately.
Good.
Fellow, I stopped in there and, spoke to a young man today. His name is Kyle Gruber. He's actually open today, I think, city business license is in force, came and got that today. He's familiar with the area, been in the body shop business a while, and, looked to me like his motivation to work was, count them two, looked like they were bought at the same time, which might indicate twins, this might be an assessment. Two child safety, child seats in the back seat of his car. That could be his motivation to work, but he seems like a good guy.
Is that over where?
Yeah.